Shani Nwando Ikerioha Collins, aka Snick. Shani, marvelous. Nwando, child who thinks of everyone else before themselves. A child of peace. Ikerioha, child born after a mother has many miscarriages. Collins, the name given to my African ancestors whose bodies were trafficked here to America from the continent of Africa. I was 3 months old on November 3rd, 1979, when the Greensboro massacre went down. It was a protest that my mom was supposed to be at, but couldn't find a babysitter for me that day. It was an anti-KKK march led by the Greensboro Communist Workers' Party, a multiracial labor group, and was expected to be a peaceful protest. After some time had passed, white supremacists in cars caravaned directly by the rally, which was in Morningside Homes, not too far from my house in Greensboro. There were 0 police officers visible on site. Years later, the public found out that police had intentionally not shown up that day, despite knowing the potential for violence. This all sounds too familiar some 40 years later. So, having no protection from law enforcement, the anti-racist activists began to beat on the cars of the Klansmen as they threaten and surround them. And after a while, the white supremacists got out of the cars and began shooting at the protesters. There were some shots also fired at the Klansmen, and in the end, 1 Klansman and 5 protesters were killed. 10 people were injured. It is out of this movement that I was born, out of Black power and liberation movements, national organizations such as the Black United Front, the Black Panther Party, the Black Arts Movement, and the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, SNCC, who were a radical group of young people, high school and college students who organized sit-ins at counters that were closed to Black people in Greensboro, North Carolina at the time. Hence, civil and human rights activist Ella Baker contributed to setting up the first meeting for SNCC. She once said, "Give light. Give light, and people will find a way." I call myself SNCC, given also that this is the acronym for my birth name, the name my parents gave me that I shared the meanings of earlier. But SNCC, to be, the continuation of nonviolent movement, to be and to give light. And now I get to do that through the work that I do that is rooted in dance. There is a certain energy that walks with us around the circumstances of our birth and our names, the energy of our names given to us and the ones we give ourselves. I'm constantly uncovering new knowledge of the ways in which I'm connected and loved and humbled by the name I was given by my family and the communities around me. When I was in 6th grade, I had to be assigned my own seat on the school bus. Yes, because no one wanted to sit with me. No one wanted to sit with the dark-skinned girl whose head was shaved like Grace Jones. They called it a flat top fade in the 90s. You know, the natural hairstyle that was shaped like a box on the top of the head and shaved close to bald on the sides. And being the vivacious 11-year-old girl that I was, I had to take it to another level. I had a rat tail. You know, a patch of hair that sits at your hairline just above your neck in the back. Yes. I primarily shaved my head because I was on the swim team, and swimming in a perm and the chlorine was not a cute mix. Some of you all know what I'm talking about. But even before that, it took my Aunt Harriet and all my family and friends to convince my dad to let my sister and I get a perm. And then now my hair was breaking off and falling out because I was in the pool every day on the swim team. So my cousin hooked me up with the latest hairstyle that I thought was cool, but my peers were not ready for, to say the least. They gave me so much grief about having the nerve to cut my long, beautiful permed hair off for this natural catastrophe. that had me looking like a boy, they just couldn't understand why I would do that. I'm telling you, I got teased every day from even people that I didn't even know. I remember an older woman not even knowing what to call me in the department store. Are you a girl or a boy? Are you a girl or a boy? Are you a girl or a boy? What did it matter? I would ask myself, why is this making so many people upset? Me showing up like this, being and expressing myself in the way that I thought was cool. I guess I was really different for the time. My dark skin, my natural hair, my rat tail. And on top of it, I was a Black ballerina, dancing ballet in a magnet school in Greensboro, North Carolina, point shoes, tutu, pink tights, sway back, and what they call maybe a big butt, and no bun. My peers literally threw paper and stuff at me during one of the performances as they laughed out loud and caused a disturbance in the audience. No bun on my head, but I did have an invisible crown that sat on the top of my head that my parents, my family, and my ancestors put there. They raised me with this crown, this invisible crown that taught me that Black is beautiful, that wrong was not my name, and there is no shame in me being myself, and there is no shame in this body and in the skin that I was born in. Most of all, I was their pride and joy. Black, bold, and beautiful. Young, gifted, and Black. As a matter of fact, my mom said she would cut her hair with me. So she went back and wore a natural, and we wore a natural together. They gave me a sweatshirt that read, "Happy, I'm nappy." And I stayed happy and nappy until my first year of high school when I finally got a perm. But 3 years later, I cut it all off again. And then I went back natural and shaved my head my first year of college. And you see where I'm at now. Happy, I'm nappy. I learned so much about being liberated, about who I am, about this life from my family and being a student of this movement towards personal and collective liberation. Really, to live in gratitude is to live in the realization that we are here now. Look at all of us. We're all here right now. We are still here. My grandmother Hester would always say, if life lasts, then I'll see you tomorrow. If life lasts, then we can do that. But if life lasts, I watch my family being weighted, liberated, curious, and resilient. And I've learned that I come from a family line of talented and tough folks who practice tough love and great expectations. Our family says that a family that prays together stays together. And you better be ready, though, if you come to my house to get to work, because you will be participating in whatever is happening in the kitchen, cleaning, sweeping, washing dishes, mopping, dusting, even cooking, or working in the yard, in the garden, weeding, planting, whatever it is. You will learn how to do it, and you will learn how to do it right, or you will do it over and over and over and over again until you get it right. Yes, we get it right. We sing the blues, we think together, we grieve together, we play together, fall together, get up together. We sit down and break bread and eat and cook together. We be music together. We be dance together. We be. My great grandfather, Hilliard McMore, and his wife, Sally McMore, worked on their land in Rock Hill, South Carolina, gardening and raising animals. He lived to be 110 years old and landed a feature story in Ebony magazine titled Amazing Grace, an old man, a 102-year-old South Carolinian manages to keep on keeping on. June 1974. Comedian Red Fox was on the cover. He built Hilliard McMore 2 houses himself and was the first Black man in his neighborhood to drive an A model Ford car. He didn't even see a dentist until he was of the fine age of 80. They had a huge garden, and I remember as a child feeding the hogs and bearing witness to the amount of work that it took to upkeep it. He raised 14 children, and Sally and him together raised 12. One of them being my great grandmother, Amy McMore Simpson's, whose white golden hair was so soft, we found it mesmerizing as she would let us play with it on the front porch, me and my sister Kiki, when we were children and would visit down south during the summers. Her daughter, my grandmother, Martha Jackson, is a twin. Her twin is Mary. It's Martha and Mary, Mary and Martha. Mary was a fisherman who loved the water. A few years back, when my grandmother was 79 years old, she's now 87. My sister did an article in our family newspaper about her garden. And she asked her, "What do you love about gardening? You've been gardening for over 60 years. And she said, she just loves seeing things grow. She said, "I like to see everything grow." So even at that time, she would get up at 6:30 in the morning to work the garden, hoeing and tilling and doing most all the work herself. Her cabbages, she would say, is as big as your head. And those mustard greens, that kale, spinach, and collards, with some cornbread. Man, my dad and her were friendly competitors when it comes to their gardens. Both of their collard greens were as big as I've ever seen collards. I mean, the leaf itself was about the size of the top of my body. Those were some resilient greens. Collard greens have long been eaten for at least 2,000 years here in America. And it was the enslaved Africans that practiced their African traditions from the continent here in America by bringing over the technique of cooking them down to a gravy and eating the juice from the greens. On my mother's side, we are descendants of the Mende people from Sierra Leone, an ethnic group that has been able to maintain its cultural practices, brought over their traditions of rice growing and their making of sweetgrass baskets down in Florida, where my mom was born. Their African traditions are still preserved to this day in the low country regions, the Sea Islands of the US. They're called the Gullah Islands. So we are Geechee people. Some would say that we are disappearing culture here in America, but I would say that we are still here. My mom's parents, my grandma, Joan Irvin, a woman who had always said, life is not a dress rehearsal. You got to get your run in. You might know this one. You can catch more bees with honey than vinegar. Never quit one job without another, she'd say. And the man that you with is your checkings account, but always keep that savings account. And lastly, don't just pay bills all your life. With every check, pay yourself as well. These lessons of oral traditions became more valuable to me as I got older and as I became a mother. My grandfather, her first husband, Dr. Clarence Simmons, an English professor at the historic Black Mary Holmes College in West Point, Mississippi, and my grandma were both educators and musicians that took leadership in their communities by being one of the only Black convenience stores where Blacks felt safe and welcome to build spaces of community that really celebrated music and poetry and theater. They were both pianists and made sure that my mother, from a very young age, trained in classical piano. This is where my love of classical music comes from, my grandparents and my mom. When I was younger, my mom would get up in the middle of the night and play for hours. When I was a child, I would come downstairs and lay down at her feet under the piano and listen to her practice. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. Oh no, We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes, until the killing of Black men, Black mother sons is as important as the killing of white men, white mother sons, not needing to clutch for power, not needing the light just to shine on me. I need to be one in the number as we stand against tyranny. We who believe in freedom shall not rest. Oh no. We who believe in freedom shall not rest until it comes. I'm a woman who speaks in a voice and I must be heard. At times we could be quite difficult, but I'll bow down to no man's word. We who believe in freedom shall not rest. Oh no. We who believe in freedom shall not rest until it comes. I am my ancestral past. I am Black royalty. I am the manifestation of a dream of my ancestors. I am Black magic. My body, this body, now and into the future is resilient. The resilience of my family, the resilience of our ancestors collectively. And we choose joy. We choose joy. We choose to thrive in a society, a system that may not want to see us survive, but we find time to play in this resilience. I get to be because my ancestors did not. I am because they were. I am because they are. And while life lasts, I choose radical love. I choose to see others even when they don't see me. I choose to care when I'm not cared for. I choose to hold space, sacred, loving space for my sisters and brothers. I choose to take up space and to take flight. It is a new day. I pray that it is a new day. I choose peace. And in my movement of resilience, in this movement for liberation, it is a new day. I get to be free. I get to be free. I be free. I am free. I am free. I am free.
When I think about home, I think about, you know that song? When I think of home, I think of a place where there's love overflowing. Yeah, that's it right there. It's just so much love. So much love. You know, from my parents being there, from it being the place where I grew up, where my sister grew up, just us being in the same house like all my life. Things are just shifting and changing all the time. And so home grounds me. My parents, my grandparents, my great-grandparents has given to me and has given this family, right? This legacy. I just want to continue for it to go on, to stay connected.